Hello and welcome to my daily coverage of the 2024 Silk Road Mountain Race. This is my first update. So let's head over to Map Progress and have a little look and see what's going on. Now, if you're not familiar with the Silk Road Mountain Race, it's a 1,200 mile self-supported bikepacking race around Kyrgyzstan, which is in Central Asia. I'll just zoom out so you can see. So bordering China, Kazakhstan, and the other sort of stands in Central Asia. Characterized by high mountain passes, high altitude, limited resupply, and generally just very tough. Some people say it's one of the toughest ones out there. I probably agree. It is fairly tough. So yeah, I'm not out there this year. I went last year. I think I was 7th in around 8 days or so. So I'm going to sort of use some of my knowledge from last year's event and bring you daily updates over the course of the next week, 10 days. Before I go any further, Redshift Sports, if you've watched my videos before, you know that they are sponsoring my race coverage. So a big thank you to Redshift. There's a discount code in the description below for 15% off. They've just introduced their shorter shock stems or shock stop stems in now 55mm and 70mm. Previously, it was only 80mm upwards. So yeah, it gives some more options if you've got a long frame or a smaller frame. So yeah, check those guys out, and thanks again for all the support for my coverage this year. Let's just have a little look on Rider GPS first, just to see what the riders are going to be tackling over this first 24 hours. Currently, the race it's 2 p.m. in the UK. I think it's 6 hours ahead in Bishkek in Kyrgyzstan. So about 8 p.m. local time. I suspect it's just about starting to get dark. And you can see the race starts in the capital city, Bishkek, and goes basically straight up. You can see Kegeti Pass, bit of a monster, just under 4,000 meters. So last year I did a lot of this route, but in reverse. And so I've got quite a lot of video imagery to show you over the course of the race. I did do a race preview as well if you've not seen that already, so check that out. That's got a bit of an overview, but I can go into more detail now the race is going on. So you can see there's a big pass to start with, up to 4,000 meters. That's going to take most of the day. So a lot of riders, if we look on the tracker, are still on that pass. So what are we, kind of 8 hours or so riding? And they've still only done about 60 miles. Just goes to show the extent of it. And there's another pass after. You can see, I'll go back to Rider GPS, it's a bit clearer. You can see another pass after. Rider GPS have actually just added wind layers as well to their maps, which is kind of useful to see. So you can see the riders would have had a nice sort of tailwind out of Bishkek. But then once you get in this valley here, it's quite a long, deep valley. You can see the cold air and the lower wind in there. So yeah, it wouldn't make much difference on the climb. And then probably a bit of a headwind this evening for the lead riders as they head down from the higher mountains again. So yeah, let's go over to the tracker, see who is where. So our leader at the moment, I mean, this is the first day of a like at least a week race, so don't read too much into what's happening now. I suspect I know for sure it's very easy to go far too hard on that climb, and some riders might get a bit enthusiastic early on. So I suspect this top 10, top 15, all the way down the field to really get modelled up in the next couple of days. Dan Marsmans is currently leading. He's from the Netherlands. I don't know an awful lot about Dan, to be honest, so if anyone knows anything, just drop something in the comments. One of the riders I mentioned in my preview, Marion de Saint-Exupéry, is currently in second. Looks like they can probably see each other, I'd imagine. And you never know with tracker kind of delay. So those guys are over Kegeti and on to the next pass. Let's have a little look on at what the riders are facing on Kegeti. So as I said, I rode over Kegeti the other way to they're going this year. This is the top of Kegeti going down. So riders will be coming up this. You can see there was snow there. This was a really quite a pleasant day. So Kegeti does trap the weather. You can see snow on the tops, and the first couple of editions of this race there was blizzards at the top here. So you can see it's pretty much rideable, but you're nearly, I think it's like 3,800 meters up here, nearly 3,900. So air is very thin. It does get cold up there. Obviously, the riders will be sweating a lot riding up, and then when they drop down the other side, it can get cold very quickly. So definitely something to think about. This is the summit, again, going from the opposite direction. That's Lucas Clement. He's a rider in there. I think he's in about 20th at the moment. So you can see on the other side, the side the riders are riding up is much easier. The descent the other side, it's a little bit sketchy at the top. It's not used very much. There's quite a few rock slides and loose rocks everywhere, so you've got to keep on your guard a little bit. And you can see here, this is a pretty spectacular mountain pass. And riders will be coming up from the distance there towards the camera. It's incredible. Really looking forward to go out there again at some point. Hopefully next year I can do the Silk Road race again. And so riders will be clambering up over, and then the descent, it's on the way up is a lot of hiker bike. It's quite loose. The track doesn't really exist, and you can see there's lots of different lines. It was hard hiking up. I suspect good chunks of it. If you're a competent mountain biker, you can ride good sections of it. However, some bits you probably don't want to risk. It's very steep, not an awful lot in the way of grip under the tyres. So I suspect most people will end up walking down, and certainly even the guys riding, some bits will be safer just to walk, just to make sure that they're okay, and nothing happens. So you can just see as I was talking that Dan Marsman's dot moved quite a bit. Satellite or reception on the trackers may not be great, so we need to take all of these with a pinch of salt while everyone's so close together. Further down the top 10, names that stand out. Joe Nation, mentioned him in my preview, and Angus Young. I expect those guys to be right up there in a few days' time. Like I said, this is very early on, so we can't really take this with too much kind of seriousness. Vlad, he's a local rider, he'll be up there, and Max as well. I've heard he's a very strong local rider. First woman at the moment, it looks to be Hannah Simon in 26th place. So she's riding really strong with Jacob Hora, he's fairly young, but he's done this before. So it'll be interesting to see. I'm interested to see how Jacob develops over time, he's got a lot of experience already, but as he kind of matures physically, it'll be interesting to see what he can do in some of these races. He's had some good coaching from JP Davari early on in his kind of cycling career as such, so it'll be interesting to see. So back to Rider GPS, the riders are just passing this little summit here, and then they've got a long downhill back to civilization. I suspect, how far is that? So from the summit, 85 miles. So it's about 50 miles downhill. 8 p.m. now. They might find a shop. They might find a resupply in this little town here. Resupply is quite limited, but I suspect a lot of the riders have basically carried enough food to get to CP1, which is Songkol Lake, which I suspect they'll get to tomorrow. So a lot of these riders, they'll be pushing down into this valley, and I suspect sleeping down here. I expect they'll be getting there fairly late. I'm not quite sure. Sometimes the shops stay open quite late. It just depends. It can be quite variable, so it'd be interesting to see if they can resupply. But if I was starting this race, I'd carry enough food to see me through to the first checkpoint. Certainly further back down, I think most of the pack, they're still on Kegeti, so they'll be camping in this valley somewhere, I suspect. A lot of them I would have thought would try and push over this summit and just get to lower altitudes, bearing in mind altitude is a factor, so getting lower is going to make things easier. And then they should be able to resupply in the morning. But the leaders, I think they'll push through. Maybe even some of them will push through to checkpoint 1 and ride overnight. Personally, I wouldn't do that. It's a long race. I'd probably take 2 or 3 hours tonight. And then there's a tough climb up to tomorrow up to Zeshu. And then again, you're on a high altitude plateau, like 3,500 meters up here, 10,000 foot. So yeah, it's a race of attrition, and you don't want to start too hard too early. So we'll see how that pans out, and I'm sure, I'm absolutely 100% positive this top 10 will be massively different in 2 or 3 days time. So yeah, something to keep an eye on as the race progresses. Let's have a little look on the Silk Road Mountain Race Instagram. Bear in mind, cell reception. There is some, obviously the high mount passes like Kegeti, there's not going to be anything. There's no reception, no signal. And quite often it's just 3G, so it's hard to do updates of stories. So I'm not expecting to find too much in the way of media coverage too consistently from riders. But the Silk Road Mountain Race, they have a media team, so we'll keep an eye on their page and see what pops up. And as you can see, this was the start earlier this morning. Bishkek in the background. The race actually started just on the edge of the city. There's Nelson Trees, who is the organizer of this, also Hellenic and the Atlas Mountain Race. And yeah, all smiles early on. I'm sure there won't be smiles for the whole of the race. But there you go, Marin de Saint-Exupéry. He's actually ridden there from Europe to take part in this race. He also rode to the Atlas Mountain Race in Morocco earlier this year and the Hellenic Mountain Race in Greece. On this kind of epic journey, and he's riding back home to Switzerland after the race. It'll be interesting to see how it goes. He'll certainly be very strong and experienced after almost a year on the road. I wonder how much fatigue he'll have though, and he'll be hungry for it as well, because he was unable to start Atlas Mountain Race due to getting sick, and then I think he had stomach issues again in Hellenic. So hopefully he can pull it together for this one. And there we go. It's pretty cool place, and there's the mountains awaiting for them. Start at 900 meters and then basically just under 4,000 in the first day. So yeah, it's a testing start, and this is going to be the last of the big city they see for a while now. It's going to be small villages, a lot of remoteness, and it's pretty amazing. And I kind of wish I was out there, if I'm honest. But yeah, not this year, unfortunately. So there we go. That is day one of this Silk Road mountain race. Thanks for watching. Give me a subscribe if you haven't done so already, and then you won't miss out the updates over the coming days. And yeah, catch you tomorrow for the next one.